Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode 151. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard. So this week is a little bit different because it is kind of part two. It is following up on the podcast episode from 2 weeks ago, episode 149. So in that episode, we talked about intuition, how to recognize what it is and how to use it. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about signs. So signs that you are on the right path, wrong path, and how to start using this in your life and business as well. So you don't technically have to listen to them in order. So if you're starting here, that's fine. You can listen here and then go back. Or if you want to, you can go back and listen to 149 first and then come back to this one. But before we begin, I have some really, really exciting news to share with you. And this kind of goes with intuition. Yeah, I'll share that story in a second. But this totally it felt easy. It felt right. It came together in a beautiful, beautiful way. And so excited to share with you that I am hitting the road. We're taking a tour. So coming to a city near you. I know so many of you, we've just been doing this really high level mastermind. And some of you are men, right? Like you don't even qualify or, you're not ready yet, whether it's in terms of time, investment, money, any of that, and you've been wondering how you can work with me and you've not really had any options in a long, long time. So I'm really excited to share that the one thing that you guys tend to want from me more than anything else is marketing and sales and business development and strategy around that. And so in the past, we did a one-day mastermind workshop where people would come in to Nashville, and we did a summer series that was online. And I've been doing this workshop for firms for years. I've been doing parts of it for certain themed masterminds and certain firm programs. And so we really have pulled it all together in a way that it is back to in person. It is a day and a half, and it's truly designed to be end to end so that you walk away with a plan, you feel really good about it, and you have the tools and techniques to actually go execute on it. So we'll be digging into, who should be your main prospect, your target client that you're going after, and what should that be about? Because you know that I don't think you should be doing all the things for all the people. So how to get clear on that, how to get clear on your brand, and how to lead with that, how to lead with your strengths, your unique selling proposition, how to message what you do, why you do it, and who you offer it for, both in terms of like elevator speeches, LinkedIn profiles, websites, conversations, all of that. We'll be digging into that. And it's not just training either. If you've ever worked with me, I'm very interactive because I want you to learn it. I want you to be able to talk through it, and I want you to be able to walk away knowing what to do. So we'll be working on that stuff there. It is a hands-on workshop. Looking at how do you nurture those prospects? So you've identified them, but how do you market to them? And then how do you nurture those relationships? And then how do you ask for the business? So a good chunk is actually going to be on sales. And that's why we're calling this the Service, Not Sales workshop, because I truly believe that if you feel as though business development is hard or icky, or, you're being pushy, it's just a perspective shift, and that is so easy. And a lot of times it's about throwing spaghetti at the wall and you don't know what's working and not working. And so being able to help you really hone in on what you're doing, you are doing just a few things and it is all perfectly aligned and you know how to go execute on it. And it gives you the mental, like that mindset shift to know that what you're doing is serving others, not selling them something. Everything changes. And I've always just gotten so much great feedback from the people who have learned, my process and my training around it. And so many of you are always asking how you can work with me in that way. So we're hitting the road and we're, kind of taking a tour. And we're going to be in different cities every single month. We are going to be in Phoenix. We are going to be in Austin. We are going to be in Nashville. Los Angeles, Philadelphia, and we may add more. So it makes it easier for you to get to one of those cities and you'd like to participate in that 1.5 day workshop. I cannot wait to meet you out and about on the road and give you those skills, because anyone, and I mean anyone, can develop business. And this isn't just for women. Men can come too, because if you also feel like it feels gross and slimy and you're pressuring people, then you too want this method. It's going to feel so good and so genuine. And we need you out there doing that too. I think when we take this approach, it just shifts everything, even in corporate culture. So I'm pretty passionate about it and can't wait to meet you on the road doing it. So if you're interested in that, you can go to Service Not Sales Workshop, servicenotsalesworkshop.com. We will put that link in the show notes. All right. So let's talk about signs. How to know whether you are on the right path or the wrong path, or what you should be doing. So not from, this logical, rational perspective, but more from the intuitive perspective, where you are getting some kind of validation or information from something greater, whether, you want to call that the universe, God, just being connected. I don't really care, what you think it is or where it's coming from. But if, you believe in synchronicity at all, or you tend to say things like, well, I guess that wasn't meant for me, or that wasn't meant to be, this is what we're talking about. Okay. So we should start from there, because we all have different beliefs around this, and it really doesn't matter what the belief is in order to benefit from this. I know I used to teach a meditation CLE for attorneys, and I would share different mudras. And that's where, you're touching different parts of what I was teaching related to your fingers, right? And what they stood for. But I always shared, it doesn't matter whether or not you believe that, putting two fingers together truly means you are connected to your health, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you believe it's true, but if it allows you to set the intention, and if that intention helps you, who cares whether or not it's true? So don't get tripped up on that, right? Like, it doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter whether we all agree. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not. If it helps you, who cares? That's all that matters. But for you skeptics who are wondering, should I keep listening to this? I will share my belief on this. And again, it's mine. It's personal. It doesn't mean this is right or wrong. And, it's funny. Rhonda Kinslow, who you guys know, who's part of the team, we could not be more different in the way that we feel about this. And it's okay. Again, it doesn't matter. But she very much feels like, everything is meant to be, and everything is predestined, and everything is a lesson. And I don't buy that at all. So if you are skeptical like me, I think there's, free will, and there are not any predetermined paths, predetermined lessons, or, something is meant to be. Like, I just don't buy that at all. And, I guess this is a little bit personal, but part of that is, I've experienced so much death, and I see so much injustice in the world, and I just have a hard time believing that, like, that's meant to be. I just don't. I've even seen, like, people will post on Facebook like, oh, we were in this wreck and, God took care of us. And for those of you all that know, like, my sister died in a car wreck. And so my immediate thought is, so God wasn't taking care of her? Like, what are you insinuating? So anyway, I get a little touchy about that stuff. So if you're a skeptic, just know I'm with you in terms of, like, something's predetermined or whatever. I don't feel that way either, but you can still benefit from this concept of signs as you play with it and explore it if it works for you. And if you are like, Heather, you were dead wrong, and you've got an explanation for me as to why I'm looking at that wrong, good. This works for you too. You're already bought in. All right. So why do we even care about signs? How could it benefit us? Often tapping into a sign or looking for signs, it is a way to actually confirm or validate intuition. So I shared in episode 149, intuition is hard to explain. We can't identify always why we think something or why we feel something. And so when we're looking for, is this just fear or is this insight? It's helpful to look for signs that are like, yeah, that's what that is, right? It validates us. And because intuition feels so fuzzy because intuition is not rational, it's not logical, it's not something you can explain, then it's just an extension to explore and play with this concept of letting things around you that aren't logical and aren't rational to give you evidence or information that what you're feeling is accurate, right? Like that you're on the right path. Now, I totally get for those of you who do believe things are meant to be, right? That things are predetermined. A lot of times that can provide for you a sense of acceptance, right? It allows you to accept your circumstances or your situation. It can empower you. It can give you faith. It can allow you to surrender and to heal with whatever is going on, right? So if that benefits you, I think that's great, right? Like use that to your advantage. Here's where I think it can trip you up. And even if you don't believe that stuff, here's where can trip you up as well. And so this is where I see people using signs in the wrong way. I see people and hear people talking about signs and predetermination as an excuse or an explanation to make them feel better when they feel as though they have no control, right? So if they feel, I have no control over this situation, so I'm going to point to this as an explanation, then it seems fair enough, right? It's like, well, if that's helping you, that's not a problem. Here's where it becomes a problem. When you do actually have control, when you can do things or not do things to change your circumstances or your situation, that's when it becomes an excuse and it is not serving you. Right? Like it's not giving you acceptance. It's not empowering you. It's not doing any of those things. That is not serving you at all. Instead, you're basically saying, there's nothing I can do about this. I have no control over this. And if you're familiar with my blueprint, it's still called the Life and Law Blueprint right now. It is moving over to the Hustle and Flow Blueprint. We are in the process of updating it and revising it so that it's not just for lawyers, but you know that in my 7-step system, we have responsibility and surrender. And responsibility is taking responsibility for the things that you can control and surrendering to the things that you cannot. And the thing is, most of us spend our time and energy, like all the drama is created around things we cannot control. But the things that we can, we claim we can't. So people make all kinds of excuses about why, well, I can't do that because, right? Like I can't leave my job because I could never make more money anywhere else. I somehow tricked them into hiring me. So I don't really have the education or the skills or whatever else. This is the only place I can work making this amount of money. And I have to make this amount of money, right? So it's like, well, I have to have this job because, my kids are used to a certain school and a certain lifestyle. And so I don't have that option. Or I can't move to another city because, right? And so we make all of these excuses. And the truth is you have a choice in those situations. You don't have to work at a place that pays you the most. You don't have to provide your children with that lifestyle. You can move. You're choosing not to. And the reason why we don't take responsibility for that is because we don't like our options, right? We want a perfect world scenario. We don't want to have to face our fears. We don't want to have to do things that might disappoint others. We don't want to do things that might create change in our own life. And so as opposed to saying, I'm choosing to settle, or I'm choosing a situation that is not ideal, but it's the one that I do choose in this moment. And you can have many reasons why, all of which are legitimate. It takes away your power when you use it as an excuse and claim that you don't have a choice. And you want to take responsibility because it actually empowers you to realize that you are in control. And when you say, you know what, this is my choice and I own this and I'm unapologetic about it, it totally shifts your perspective, your attitude, and you don't feel like a victim. So this is why this matters to me. I hear people, and I'll even have clients, right? So something bad will happen. And it may not be bad, right? But it's just a disappointment. So if you're disappointed in a result, right? So maybe you didn't get that client. Maybe you didn't get that job and you were disappointed because of it. You might say, well, I guess that was just a sign that that was not the job for me. Or I guess that was just a sign that that client, wouldn't have been a good client to begin with. Well, maybe it's not the right job for you, and maybe it wouldn't have been a good client, but maybe it was the job for you, and maybe that would have been a great client. And there's a lesson there for you. What if you could have had a better resume? What if you could have prepared better for your interview? What if you didn't pitch the client the right way, right? There's so many things that go into it. If you were disappointed in something and you are saying, it must not have been meant to be, or it wasn't for me, or that's just a sign, right? Like that wasn't the right thing. If you're not looking at the situation neutrally and using it as a lesson, if there is a lesson to be there, that's a problem. That's a problem because it's holding you back. That's why it's a problem, right? Like this is not judgmental. It is, you want to learn from that so that you can improve and go get that dang job, right? It doesn't mean that there aren't other jobs out there that are going to be just as amazing, or other clients out there that aren't going to be just as amazing. But if you're not learning the lesson from the reason why you didn't get it, then you're still not going to get the next thing that comes along. And I want you to get the next thing that comes along. So just check in with yourself next time you say that. Am I saying this to make myself feel better, right? Or am I using it as an excuse to bury my head in the sand and not look at my part and my role and what I could have done differently? Now, I am not into people beating themselves up, right? Or ruminating and like, oh, if only I would have said this different. I am not talking about it that at all. You want to get in and get out. You want to have some neutral space. You want to look at it, right? From a neutral perspective. You might even want to get feedback from others, but not too much, right? Like don't be talking about for this, days and months on end. Get your lesson and then start taking action. Start taking action to learn from that lesson, right? So don't stay stuck in the whole analysis paralysis, woe is me, I screwed it up. That is not what I'm talking about. But I also don't want you to give yourself a pass if you can improve and learn. All right, so here's another way that people bring this up as an excuse. So let's say that you procrastinate and you don't get something out. Let's say that you fail to make a decision, right? Like, because you're in analysis paralysis and you're like, I want to make the right decision, so I've not made a decision. Or you were going to take action doing certain things and you never got around to doing it. And it's not because you were procrastinating, it's just you didn't make it a priority, okay? Those are 3 great examples of things that can create missed opportunities or mistakes, right? Because procrastination is a great example. Like you wait until the last minute and then you throw something together and maybe you made some mistakes. Anything like that. If you find yourself saying, similar to before, well, I guess that just wasn't for me, or that wasn't the right opportunity, or that wasn't meant to be, or it's, the one door closes, another opens, all of that stuff. Again, if you have a 0 control and that helps you, go for it. But if you're being honest, and the truth is that perhaps something did or didn't happen because you were procrastinating, failing to make a decision, or failing to make something a priority and take action, that's on you. And again, you just want to own that and be able to be honest about that so that you can start addressing those issues and they don't keep showing up over and over again, because it's holding you back and keeping you from the life that you really want. So, ultimately, you're just checking in to say, am I letting myself off the hook here? Or is there something I actually have to learn? And if so, can I take responsibility for that and stop blaming it on the universe, God, or whatever? Because indeed, if things continue to never go your way, right? You never land the clients, you never get the job, you never get the, romantic partner you're looking for, whatever it is, right? If you're constantly saying, well, that just wasn't meant to be, you're going to start to get really bitter and resentful and angry and feel like a victim, right? And it's far more empowering for you to be able to be honest about what you actually can and can't do to increase your odds of getting what it is that you really want. So where can we use signs, right? Use it for the positive. This is my thing, right? Like if you're constantly saying a sign is something like that wasn't for you, then you might be using it in the wrong way, or at least in the way that's not really beneficial for you. It's just kind of coddling you. But if you look at it as in like, I have these ideas, or I have these thoughts, or I have these opportunities, and I wonder if they're right. Okay. So it feels like maybe that's a good prospect, or maybe that's a good idea. Maybe that job is what I want. Then you can start looking for, is that accurate? Right? Is that accurate? Are my feelings, is my intuition, are my thoughts, is that accurate? Because I know so many of you, right, get caught in analysis paralysis. And so signs can be a fun way to get you out of that. So again, you're looking at it from a positive perspective, not a negative explanation perspective. You guys, great news. The 2020 planners, project pad, and bookmarks are finally here. More than a typical planner, it is a complete planning system that will revolutionize the way you approach your days, weeks, months, and years. It will help you achieve your biggest goals and work on that to-do list so that you can take back your day and focus on what matters most. Get yours now at lifeandlawplanner.com. So we'll start kind of beginner, and then we'll go a little bit more advanced, a little bit more woo for, those of you who want to play with this a little bit more. But one thing that you can just start to look for is coincidences. Start to look for synchronicity, right? So, maybe you were thinking about someone and then you see them out in public. Now, sometimes that's just random, right? Like there's no explanation for it. But if you are having thoughts about something, right? Maybe you're thinking, oh, I really should be reaching out to prospects, or I wonder if this client, is someone I really should be going after. And then you see them in a restaurant, right? Not too long after you have the thought. That can be a sign that you are on the right path. Okay. And here's the thing. Let's go back to the beginning. This is not logical or rational. All right. If you insist on it being logical and rational, you can just stop now. You're not going to like the rest of this because it's like intuition. We are not talking about logic. We are not talking about anything being rational here. This is that weird, fuzzy, unknown stuff that we can't put our finger on, but can give us great information and insight, and quite frankly, can be fun. Okay. And who doesn't need more fun in their life? So that can be a great easy sign. You don't really have to be asking for anything, looking for anything. You're just paying attention. And part of this is mindfulness, right? Learning to be in the present moment. There are so many things happening around us all the time. You may already be getting signs, and there may be coincidences and synchronicities all around you, but you have no clue because you're just not present, right? Like, how often are you on your phone? So if you're out in public, if you're at a restaurant or somewhere else, and maybe you're there waiting before someone else gets there. And because as a society, we no longer are comfortable with just being, we immediately pull out our phones, right? Like, what's going on around you that you don't even see? Like, if you just put the phone down and you're just present, who's in that space that you're not even recognizing? Or, maybe there are literal signs, right? Literally signs or messages or any number of things that you're just totally missing out on because you're not paying attention. You're not being in the present moment. Another can be when an opportunity just lands in your lap, right? If you've been having thoughts of like, this is an approach I want to take, or again, like, I wonder if I should pitch to this person or something else, and then it just lands in your lap, right? Or is something close to it lands in your lap, that's a pretty good sign that you should keep following that path, that you should keep following that intuition. So like, for example, maybe you decide, I just have this feeling that like, I'd really like to work for, I don't know, let's say Google. And you're like, but I'm in a city where Google doesn't even exist. And then the next thing you know, someone tells you that, or you see a billboard or something, right, that says like, Google is coming. That may be a really good sign that you are on the right path. Okay. Can't explain it, but it's like everything's coming together. That's a great way to use a sign. But again, that requires you to start being mindful and to be totally present in the situations you're in order to see those things. And an example of that, I think I may have shared this before. So it's like when you start car shopping, right? When you find a car that you like, you start to see them everywhere. And you're like, everybody's driving this car now. They weren't a week ago. Yes, they were. You just weren't paying attention, right? So, if you want to think logically or rationally, it could just be that your brain is now focusing on what it wants But you can use that as a sign that that is what you want. It is what you're wanting to focus on. So that's a fun way. And I'm looking at the time. I've still got so much to say about this. It doesn't always mean that you have to take action, though. So 2 examples. One, when I first moved to Nashville, I knew that I wanted to do entertainment law. I knew that I wanted to be involved in that space. And I'm scrappy. I'm not above anything. So I was going to do a gig for one of the award shows at Bridgestone Arena, which is our arena downtown, where they were holding the award show. And I was literally going to just be an usher. I was going to go get minimum wage. And so I was going for that interview, right? I'm in law school. I'm going for that interview. And as I'm walking around the building, there was this line of people. And I was like, oh, is this where the interviews are for the award show? And they were like, this is for the Wranglers. And I'm like, what is a Wrangler? And I think I asked, and we were like, we're volunteering to work with the production team with the artists and the managers. And I was like, okay. And so I just got in line, right? I was like, this is what's called opportunity. What's the worst that's going to happen? So I had already set the intention. I was trying to do things that would pull me in. Is this the right path? I don't know. How do you get to meet people? And so when opportunity opened itself up, I was like, this is a sign. This is an opportunity. And so I stood in line, and looking back, clearly they had terrible security because, they just checked us in and we're like, what's your name? And I got in, no problem, no problemo, because they were volunteers basically, but you generally needed to know someone. And then from there, I did the little training behind backstage, and they then said, do you have a preference on who you want to work with? And so I wrote down Faith Hill because why not? And apparently no one else did because they were trying to be strategic, and getting, someone decent. So they weren't going for the best. And yeah. And so to me, that was they were just signs and they were opportunities. And I just kept putting out there what I wanted, and it kept coming back to me. So that's an example of where you can see signs and you just take action. There are other times when you see signs and it's just confirmation. There's no action to take. So this just recently happened. When I was in Marrakesh, I went to Morocco in December for my vacation to celebrate my birthday. And we were staying at a place. It just happened to be the Marrakesh, their International Film Festival at the same time. I didn't know that. And the hotel or the property where we stayed, it's really small. There might have only been 30 rooms there. And Oprah was there. Oprah was there when I was there, and I didn't get to actually meet her or see her. We definitely were passing each other. I knew she was there. I knew which place she was staying in, but I never got to see her. Okay. So then just a few days later, I'm on a flight headed from Marrakesh to Paris, and my husband and I somehow we weren't seated together. And so I was sitting with 2 gentlemen right beside me, and I normally don't like to talk on planes. But the guy sitting beside me was very talkative. He was super nice. We started chatting, and he is a speaker's agent for famous authors, really famous authors. He was sharing with me who he works with. And so he helps them get speaking gigs. And, you all probably heard me say, I'm doing speaking and I'm working on the book that has been on my heart for a while. And then just a few weeks later, we're at Miraval with the opening retreat for the 2020 experience. And Abby Wambach and Glennon Doyle Melton were both there the entire time we were there. The moment we got there until the moment we left, we were all there together. In fact, one person got to be on the shuttle with them going back to the airport. But we got to meet them. We got to talk with them. My assistant, Justin, kicked Abby out of our cocktail party. That was a whole thing. He didn't know who she was. And we were giving him such crap. We were like, you can't kick her out of our cocktail party. But here's the thing. People were so excited to be in their presence and to see them. And, one of my facilitators, she was wanting to get Glennon on her podcast. And then a guest that I had come in who lives in Tucson, she's got a book. And, they were both able to talk to them. And so she was able to give Glennon her book. And that's an example of those, the opportunity is there, so take action on it. For me, and it was really interesting, I did not have any intuitive hits, right? Or intuition or feelings of this is where I need to take action. So a sign is not always, here's an opportunity for you to take action. For me, I will tell you, the being with Oprah, sitting right beside that speaker agent who works with famous authors, and being in the property, again, like there's not many rooms, and actually getting to talk to Glennon and Abby, I felt no pressure to like try to force meetings. I felt no pressure to say, can you be on my podcast? Although that would be awesome. I felt no pressure to say, I'm a speaker too, and I'm working on a book. Instead, for me, those were just signs that I'm on the right path. It felt like a complete knowing. It felt like confirmation. It felt like validation. Of course, you are in the presence of these powerful people who you admire and you one day, would like to be in their presence in a different way, right? They were such wonderful signs for me. And hopefully you can hear like that feels so positive, right? It feels so light. So sometimes it is just getting confirmation that you are 100% on the right path and just knowing and trusting that it is already all coming together. You have already planted the seeds. It is already all happening. And sometimes it's not just here's a sign, it's here's your opening, here's your opportunity, and being able to act on it. And that stuff is fun. It is so fun. So I encourage you, if you're struggling with analysis paralysis and you're wondering, am I on the right path or is something else? Be present. Just start to look around you, pay attention, be open. If you see something over and over again, if you hear it over and over again, if things start showing up in your life that make no sense, be open to, is this confirmation? Is it telling me something? Is it an opportunity I need to take action on? And I think if you start to do that, you will find it's super helpful, super beneficial, and like I said, just fun. All right, that is it for this week. That was a fun two-parter. Thanks for going along that ride with me. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And we will be back at Miraval, by the way, too. So I can't guarantee who will be there. John Stamos was there too when we were there. And the time before that, or 2 times before that, Brene Brown was there. Like that's where they go to also chill out and relax and get connected. So it's, it's a good place. So we're going to be there kicking off our 4th pod for the 2020 experience, April 19th through 22nd. I am pre-recording this, so I don't know if we will be full by the time this episode comes out, but if you are interested in applying, you can go to 2020mastermindexperience.com. And if you know you're not ready for that, or maybe it's already full, we are also taking deposits for 2021, which will also be kicking off at Miraval. So we'll put that in the show notes for you. Have a great week, and we will be back next Tuesday. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.